Hello, welcome to today's tutorial. So my name is Quincy Kanayo Koji and I'm your sole tutor and pattern drafting tutor of the Q effect, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this outfit, this 2D shirt dress. Okay, so like I told us, for those that have been following me on social media, by the way, you can follow me on social media on Instagram, on WhatsApp, and also on Facebook, okay, at the Q effect with a Z at the back, okay. All right, so for those following me on social media, I'm sure you've already seen a photo of this because I've been going on and on and on about the outfit, and some of you might be wondering what makes this outfit a 2D outfit, because I keep specifying in whatever captions that I need to make that this is 2D shirt dress. Well, it is 2D shirt dress in the sense that everything that you include in the outfit creates that fitting, as well as any other elements that appears on the garment without including anything external. I think I'm about sounding crazy, right? Okay, what I mean is that the outfit embeds other elements of it, okay, without including anything external. Okay, so in this shirt dress, the belt at the waist that you can see right there, it's already included in the outfit, so it's not an external element. Okay, and the belt also helps to create the darts and the slashes and the pleats that you see on the waistline. So that's what makes the garment a 2D garment. So there's nothing external, everything is added and included in the garment. Okay, so I'll be showing you how to do this using the pattern drafting, that's a paper pattern drafting method, and I'll also show you how to sew it and also on and so forth. So these are the tools and materials that you need for this project. So as you can see, this is my basic gown pattern, and you can see this is the front and this is the back piece of the pattern. So we need to modify this pattern into a shirt dress that we have. So the first thing we will need to do is to slash through the waistline of the gown pattern. So using my scissors, I'm going to cut through the waistline of the front. I'm going to quickly take away my back piece so that I don't make the mistake of cutting it as well. So I'm going to take it off and then cut through my waistline. I'm going to leave the tip or the side seam unslashed. Okay, I'm not going to slash it completely, I'm just going to leave the side seam unslashed. So now we need to manipulate our waist dart to the center front of the dress. So using my ruler, I'm going to draw a line from my dart here at the bust level down to the center front at the waist. So I want to manipulate my waist dart to the center front. By the way, please ignore the double lines you can see right here on as my waist dart. While I was drafting earlier, I made a mistake during the process. I made my waist dart too large, so I had to reduce it. So the darts we're going to be using are the darts, as you can see, that is in between or in the middle of the other dart legs. So using my gum, I'm going to close up the darts. By the way, I will encourage that if you plan to use a newspaper while altering your block, ensure that you use a paper comb. Avoid using a sellotape, it will ruin your work completely. So now with my scissors, I'm going to cut through the darts that I made at the center front, and then you can see my waist dart has been moved right there to the center front. So the next thing we're going to do is also to close up the bust dart. and manipulate it also to the center front. So I'm going to cut through my dart leg, and then using my paper gum, just like I did with the waist dart, I'm going to close up the dart. And you can see that the dart at the center has grown wider. So the next thing we are going to do is to repeat the same process for the waist dart at the skirt part. So using my scissors, I'm going to cut the dart leg also of the waist dart. And then close up the dart. Remember, use a paper gum if you're working with a newspaper like I'm doing. Do avoid using sellotape, it will ruin and destroy your whole work. So the next thing we are going to do is to add a blanket to the center front of the bodies of the garment. To determine the size of your blanket, you will need to add 0.5 inch to the size of your button. In this case, the size or the width of my button is 0.5 inch. So 0.5 inch added to another 0.5 inch will make a total of 1 inch. So my blanket's original size is going to be 1 inch. But I will need an overlay and underlay for my blanket. For this reason, I will be leaving about 2 inches for both the overlay and the underlay, making a total of 3 inches. So the full length or width of my blanket, will be 3 inches. After doing this, I'm just going to use my marker pen to highlight the center front again. And of course, the blanket width, the overlay, and the underlay of the blanket. So after attaching the blanket, I'm going to include slash lines or star lines in this case to the lower part of my garment, that is the skirt part of my garment. You can choose or include as much slash line include. Okay, it all depends on you, but all lines should point towards the center front at the waist level. So you can see I've included slashes for my pattern, so I'm going to cut through them, and of course I won't be cutting the slashes completely. I'm going to be leaving about 0.25 inch at the side seam. By the way, you can totally check out the computer pattern drafting tutorial for this project by just clicking on the link that you can see popping right now on the screen. You can check out the computer pattern drafting technique if you do not want to go through this whole process of slashing and cutting using hand. So you can see that I've slashed through my pattern completely. So I'm going to place a new pattern paper underneath it and spread each of the slash lines. Okay, I'm going to make my slash lines to be about 1.5 inches wide for each of slash line. How much pleats or gather that you want for your shirt dress, it's totally up to you. I don't want mine to be so bogus, so I'm going to leave it at 1.5 inch. So because I'm working with a paper, like I told you, I'll be using a gum instead rather than a sellotape. So I've placed gum on my paper and I'm just going to spread my slashes. So now that we are done creating our slashes 1.5 inches apart, I'm going to attach a piece of paper to the middle of my slash. Now the width of this paper that you're going to attach to the middle of your slashes should be twice the size of the beds you want. Let's assume you want the width of your bed to be 10 inches. You're going to multiply that value by 2, so the width should be 20 inches. In this case, I want my bed to be 2.5 inches in width. So when I multiply this value by 2, I have 5 inches. So I'm also going to include seam allowance, okay, because I will need to join my beds together. So I will make a total. I'm going to make my seam allowance to be about 0.5. So I'll multiply it by 2 and I have 1 inch. So 5 inch plus 1 inch would equal to 6 inches. So the width of your paper should be 6 inches. So I'm going to attach it to the middle of the spread and cut my pattern accordingly. So I'm going to cut out the parts that I don't need in my pattern, as you can see right here. So before we move further, I want to quickly point out, I want you to take note of a couple of things. Now, the point at which your bed stops or begin, depending on which direction you're looking at, make sure you draw a straight line, more like at a 90-degree angle between the bed and your pattern. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm making the line of my belt at the beginning and at the bottom 90 degree towards my slash. I would encourage you to begin your 90 degrees at the middle of the dart if you want your belt to be wider. So I'm going to simply cut off the parts that I don't need, so you can see right there. this is how your pattern should look like. So I have my fabric folded into two because I'm making two front pieces for my front. So my pattern is folded into two. So I'm going to place my pattern on my fabric, and I'm going to cut the side seam 1 inch away from the pattern, only for the side seam, but for the armhole, the neckline, and the center front, I'm going to leave 0.5 inch seam allowance. While drafting this pattern, I've also already included a hem allowance of about 1 inch. So in this, while cutting out my pattern for my fabric, I won't be including any hem allowance to it. When cutting out your pattern using newspaper on your fabric, I would advise that you use pins instead of sellotape or gum. Ensure that you use pins to hold down your pattern. Avoid using weights or sellotape, as it would disrupt the pattern from the fabric. So always ensure that you pin down your pattern instead with a pin, okay, while cutting out your pattern from your fabric, in the case of where you're using newspaper as your pattern paper. So you can see that I'm done cutting out my pattern for my fabric, so I'm going to take it out, and you can see how my front piece looks like. So now we're going to move to the back of the So as you can see, my fabric has been laid flat on the floor, also folded into two, okay, and you can see the folded line right there and the non-folded side, and I've placed my pattern. Now the difference between the front and the back is I have already folded my darts, okay, already folded my waist dart for my back piece. So I'm going to cut my back piece with the dart already folded or pinned down on the fabric. And just like the front piece, I'm going to be cutting my side seam as well with 1 inch away from the pattern, and the armhole, the shoulders, and the center front 0.5 inch seam allowance. Also for the back, I had already included a 1 inch seam allowance while drafting this pattern, so there will not be any need to include seam allowance, so hem allowance. So I'll be cutting the pattern without including any allowance for the fabric. So the first thing you would want to do before proceeding to sewing the front piece is to attach interfacing to your blanket and then folding it with the help of your pressing iron. So as you can see right here, my blanket has been folded and an interfacing has also been attached to it with the help of a pressing iron. I have done the same for the other front piece, and you can see my blanket is laying flat on the table. So the next thing we want to do is to stitch the sides of the blanket, that's the seam of the blanket from top to bottom, and then I will show you what next to do. So you can see that I am done. So you can see that I am done stitching my blankets left and right from top to bottom. So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold my belt. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate by showing you how it is done with one of the front pieces. So I'm going to flip the bottom of my garment over and fold the belt into equal halves, as you can see right here. So with the help of the pin, I'm going to hold the seams close to the blanket and a skirt part of garments together. So after holding down with the pin, you take it to the sewing machine and then stitch. So you can see that I've stitched my belt together, and then I folded it into equal halves and then stitched one side to the other, as you can see right here. I also did the same for the other piece. So with the help of anything that you have available, maybe a long rod or a long ruler, pull your belt to the right side. So with the help of a tweezer, you can pick the tip out of the blanket. So I'm going to do the same for the other bits. So you can see that I'm done pulling down the bed of my front pieces. So I'm going to hold the blanket down, okay, with a pin. And then I'm going to flip the side of the front, right side facing each other, wrong side up. And then I'm going to stitch the center front of the lower part of the garment to the hem. So you can either hold it down with your pin and then take it to your pressing table and press iron. So I'm going to stitch from top all the way down to the hem, and then I'll show you what next to do. So you can see my front piece has now been stitched at the center front, okay, and the blanket, you can see how it now looks at the right side. So I'm going to hold the blanket down with pins so that I'll be able to attach my front piece easily with the back piece. So these are my back pieces. So as you can see, this is how it looks after cutting it out with the dart folded. So what I'm going to do is to join the two back pieces together at the center back. I'm going to stitch from top all the way down to the hem, and don't forget that the seam allowance we included for the center back is 0.5. Now the reason for this is because I plan to use the flat fed method of seam finishing to lock my seams. If you have a serger or an overlock machine, then there is no need for you to do that, but because I do not have such an equipment, I'll be using the flat fed method of seam finishing to close my seam. So you can now see that my back pieces have joined, and it's not one, so I can practically call it now my back piece. So I'm going to place my back piece right side up, and then I'll place my front piece wrong side up, and then I'm just going to make sure the front and the back tallies by ensuring that the shoulders are joined together, the side seams all correspond, and I'm going to hold each of these areas with the pin. When done, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and then stitch. So you can see that my front and back pieces are now joined together at the shoulders and at the side seam. So the next thing we want to do is to cut out our collar. So to do that, you start off by measuring the total length of your neckline from the planket all the way to the other plankets. As you can see, the total length for mine is 19 inches. So the next measurement you want to take is from the center front to the shoulders. So after measuring mine, and I have 5.5 inches. So I'm going to get a paper. I'm going to be dividing the total neck length, which is 19 inches, by 2, and I'll have 9.5 inches. So I'm just going to draw a straight line, a horizontal line on my paper, and the first point will be my center front. And then I measure the total length, the total neckline, total length of the neckline divided by 2, which I've already established to be 9.5 inches. And then also from the center front, I'm going to measure the distance that I had gotten from the center front to the shoulders, and which is 5.5 inches, and then mark. So this point will be called my shoulders. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure 1 inch upwards at the center back line. This was known as the collar stand break. So using my French curve ruler, I'm going to create a curve from that point all the way to the center front. So at this point I can now go on to measure my collar stand. The collar stand is usually 1 inch, so I'm going to measure 1 inch from this point, which will become my collar stand. And also at the CF point, I'm also going to measure the 1 inch. Also using my French curve ruler, I'm going to connect the points together. Using my French curve ruler, I'm going to curve my the edge of my CF. You can use your French curve ruler to curve the edge. Then we will need to mirror this collar stand curve. You can use your French curve ruler to help you with that. So using my French curve ruler, I'm going to create a curve at the collar stand there. At this point, you can now measure your collar height, and the standard value for a collar height is 2.5 inches. But I'll be making mine 2 inches. So I'll measure 2 inches upwards and then draw a horizontal line all the way to the CF, that is the center front line. Then also using my ruler, I'm going to draw a line to meet where the curve is for my collar stand. Now you can leave your collar the way it is, straight, but I like to curve mine at the center back. So using my French curve ruler, I'm just going to create a curve from the center back and it will slope into my collar. And so the pattern for our collar is complete. Now the center line or the center back line means that the collar will need to be folded into equal halves. So I'm going to cut out my pattern. Don't forget that when cutting out your pattern on your fabric, you're going to need to include seam allowances. So do not forget that while cutting. So I can see my fabric has been folded into equal halves. So I'm going to place my center back line on the folded side and then cut including seam allowance of about 0.5 at the top, side and bottom. And then I'll duplicate my piece. And then I'll repeat the process also for the collar stand. So now that my collar pieces and my collar stand pieces are ready, I'm going to cut interfacing, of course, for the collar stand and the collar leaf. So using my pressing iron and electricity, I've also attached my interfacing to the wrong side of one of the collar leaves. Okay. So I'm going to place my collars with the interfacing and the one without interfacing right sides facing each other, and then I'm going to stitch the sides, top and the other side together. So as you can see, my collar has been joined together. So the next thing is to attach the collar stand. Make sure you press any, of course, and use your tweezer to bring out the edges of the collar. So I'm going to place my collar like so on my table. Make sure you have also nipped the middle of the collar so that it will make things a lot easier. I'm going to place my collar stand upside down, and then I'm going to place my collar on it. As you can see, make sure the middle point also tallies with that of the collar stand. And then I'm going to place the other collar stand wrong side up and also on upside down on my collar. Now you can pin this from start to the end, okay, and then take to your sewing machine to stitch. Has now been attached to my collar. I've also taken the liberty to top stitch the collar stand to the collar leaf. So the next thing we're going to do is to fold the seam of the collar stand to the wrong side. You will need the help of a pressing iron, a hard pressing iron, or a steamy pressing iron for this to work. So you can see that my collar stand has now been pressed ironed. So I'm going to place it around the neckline of my shirt. Hold it down with pins, And of course, take this to the sewing machine and stitch together. So after stitching the collar to the neckline of the shirt, I'm going to fold my fabric into two and then cut out my sleeve pattern using my basic sleeve pattern. By the way, you can the link below this video to see how you can draft your own basic sleeve pattern. I want my sleeve for the dress to be 3/4 or 3/4 of the sleeve, so that is exactly what I'm going to cut out. And of course, I will need to cut out 2 sleeves for our garment to be complete. So I'm going to replicate the sleeve that I have cut out now in order to have 2 sleeves. So after cutting the sleeve, the next thing we're going to do is fold the hem of the sleeve. If you have a border on the sleeve, you only need to fold once and then stitch. But if you do not have a border at the end of the sleeve and you have an overlock machine, then all you simply need to do is lock the edge of your seam, the hem of your sleeve, and stitch once. If you do not have an overlock machine or a serger machine, then you fold twice and then stitch. Then after doing this, you attach this to the armhole of your shirt dress. So you can see now that my sleeve has been attached to the armhole of my dress. So all we need to do now is to hem the bottom of the dress, and just like the sleeve, you fold twice if you do not have an overlock machine and then stitch. But if you have an overlock machine or a serger, all you need to do is to lock the edge of the dress, fold once and then stitch. So you can see that our shirt dress is complete. All we need to do now is to attach a buttonhole and buttons to the dress, and then I'll show you how it looks.
Yeah, all I get a break at the baby.
You and I.
Girl, now you the ginger me. If you know how you dey cause you trouble, shit, you know go one person. Love the way you dey dance, girl. Ah yeah, we made you. Why you can't love fire? Mommy, you be cool. Let's hop in my Maserati, baby, hop in my Maserati. I said hop in my Maserati, hop in my Maserati. Girl, I wanna see you go down. Yeah, say me I love the way you bend body. Hop in my Maserati, Baby, hop in my Maserati, and I just wanna see you right. Somebody needs somebody. My body, your body. I'm gonna check my quality. Somebody needs somebody. My body, your body. I'm gonna check my quality. Let me give you butterfly. Say now you dey mesmerize me. I'm out to shine to civilize. Anywhere you go, I go follow. When I up the music, make it go low. And I go give you steady on the slow. Baby, don't dull, make a ginger. Shawty, I know you like to party. I'm out to jump on me. Show my body, shit. Yeah, baby, come on, God. Innocent, nobody. Yeah. I'm gonna make you happy. Make you happy. Up in my Maserati. Baby, up in my Maserati. I say up in my Maserati. Up in my Maserati. Girl, I wanna see you go down. Yeah, send me your love